Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And we've got another new, or kind of old I guess, and definitely pretty interesting shell out here today to test that I'm absolutely curious to see how it does. And it's actually one that one of you guys sent in. So BG, thank you again for sending me some of these shells. And for the rest of you guys watching, we've got a few more different ones from him to still test. And they're definitely some pretty interesting ones. So you're definitely not going to want to miss those as we move into turkey season here. But today's shell is definitely something pretty interesting and something that I don't think is actually made anymore. Now I don't have the box for these shells, but this is what we've got out here today. Maybe if you can see in the glare there, these are some old Remington Premier Hevi-Shot shells. These are 3.5 inch, 1 3/4 ounce load of 5s. And from what I can gather, Hevi-Shot patterned with Remington before they kind of branched off and did their own thing. Now, the internet's not exactly clear on what these shells are as far as what the pellets are actually made of. Some just call them Hevi-Shot, some call them tungsten, some say they're a mix or an alloy of tungsten and a few other metals. So if you know exactly what these Hevi-Shot Remington shells are actually made of, then by all means leave a comment. But I'll throw a picture of the box up of what it would have looked like here if I can find one. But either way, these are definitely no longer made and a very interesting shell, especially in the 3.5 inch version here. But as for the setup we've got to run them through today, I brought out the Mossberg 835 here with this choke, and we haven't seen this one in a while, but this is the Kicks Gobblin Thunder 680 constriction turkey choke, and this 680 has done very well for us with a bunch of other loads in the past. So if the shell is actually a decent performing shell, then we should see some decent results. Now, at least the newer Hevi-Shot stuff has been less than impressive to say the least in my testing. So I don't know, maybe since these are an older shell, they might work out a little bit better. I guess we'll just have to test them and see, really. But as for our testing, we're going to do everything the same as usual. I have the turkey target set up at 40 yards. I also have the chronograph, so we'll be able to get our velocity. I think these are supposed to be about 1300 is a claim that I saw. I don't know that we'll see that, but we'll be able to get the actual number from this particular shell anyway. So let's get you guys set up with a view of this target, and we'll take our shot, look at our chrono, and see what kind of results we get. I'm definitely curious to see how this kind of older design shell that's not made anymore might be able to perform, since both Remington and Hevi-Shot don't necessarily have the best turkey shells on the market today. So maybe this older combo might actually work out. I don't know. But let's go over here and test them and see what kind of results we can actually get. Okay, so that shell gave us 1279 through our chronograph. Now, if they were claiming 1300 like I might have seen somewhere on the internet, then we're definitely not too far off from their claim. And 1279 is definitely starting to get up there into moving a little bit higher velocity, so that would make sense overall. So I think we're about right where we should be for these shells anyway, as far as velocity goes. And for a 3.5 inch shell, yeah, they had recoil, but not nearly as bad as some of the other 3.5 inch shells I've shot, so they weren't too bad to shoot, I'd say, for a big shell. But how well did they actually pattern down at 40 yards? Let's go take a look and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, we do have a dead turkey. There are 3 or 4 through the brain there, and another 1 or 2 down the spine. So absolutely a dead bird. But very clearly, our pattern is off to the left a little bit. Now, this is the second or third time I've hit to the left with this 835 as of recent, so maybe it's me, maybe it's just the chokes and shell combination. I don't know, but it's unfortunate because that's a pretty decent looking pattern, and it would look a whole lot better if it was actually centered up on the paper. And we do have a core area right about in there, which looks pretty decent, or at least a little bit more hot than some of the outer sides of the patterns. Now, there is this one noticeable kind of hole right up there, which is just off the top edge of our core area. It's not necessarily super big, but it does stand out here in person at least. I don't know if it necessarily comes through on camera as good, but there is that one little void, which I don't necessarily like to see. Now, as for the rest of the pattern, it looks pretty good overall, really, at least for both a Remington shell and a Hevi-Shot shell at that. This is by far a whole lot better than the stuff that they put out today, in my opinion anyway, from what I've tested. Now, we do see some stragglers and stuff around the outside edges, and definitely a flyer or two all the way down there. So it's not perfect by any means, but the main area of our pattern is pretty hot with shot. It gives you a little bit of leeway. Overall, it's definitely not a bad pattern whatsoever, all things considered. So I definitely think that we're looking pretty good here and on the right track. I think I've got 1 or 2 more of those shells left, so we'll run them through some other chokes and see what kind of results we get. Maybe a little tighter, maybe a little bit more open. I don't know. We'll see. But definitely plenty good enough of a pattern from both a Remington and a Hevi-Shot shell, I'd say. Okay, and here's the wad out of that shell, and as you can see, it's very interesting looking. This is the first turkey wad I've seen that has 5 petals on it. Usually they either have 2 or 3. Sometimes you get a 4-petal wad, but 5? Definitely something a little bit different here. It opened up almost perfectly evenly, and nothing stuck down in there, and no rips or tears or anything I'd be concerned with here. So definitely a very interesting, unique looking wad, I'd say, compared to all the other stuff that I've tested anyway. And clearly, I think it did what it was supposed to do with today's test, or at least it worked well with how this shell was loaded, I'd say. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that performance there? Definitely a turkey killing pattern out to 40 yards any day of the week. I wish it was a little bit more centered up, but that's why we use the target backers to be able to see that kind of stuff. Overall, our pattern did pretty well for us. There was that one void that I didn't really like to see, but other than that, it looked pretty decent, all things considered, I'd say. And I definitely think it's better than a lot of the stuff that Remington and Hevi-Shot puts out today in their shells, that's for sure, at least from what I've tested. But as always, leave your thoughts about it in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see, or were you a little bit surprised? And if you've ever tried any of these, or used to shoot these when they were readily available, what kind of performance have you seen out of them? Let me know all that down below in the comments. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to film for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.